Happy Wednesday morning and a good morning for another brand new episode of Mornings with the Outlaw. I am one of your hosts, the Outlaw, John Rocha, coming to you live from the heart of Beverly Hills here in the Outlaw Nation studios, recovering from last night's pretty fun, extensive, wild, crazy, and poignant Outlaw Nation show with Jay Washington last night. You know, he came in pretty exhausted, but by the end, he was pretty hyped up. We had a great time. So thanks to all of you who watched it on the Outlaw Nation channel last night. And if you haven't watched it yet, after we're done with this show, please do yourself a favor and watch it. But I am joined, as always, by my co-host here on the show, Alex Shashek over there. Alex, how was your night? What did you end up doing last night?
Yesterday I chat about the weird cultish vampire comedy Vampire's Kiss. I did that with Drew. I did a little reacting to that IG match with Alba and what's his name?
Is that Alba or Elba? Alba or Elba? Which one did you?
Alba.
Okay, Alba. Yes.
Definitely Greg Alba. I'm like 95% sure. But I've been wrong before, so I'm like actually kind of low-key nervous now, considering.
Oh, yeah, all right.
Fair. It's all good. It's all good. I'm also excited now, just because I'm excited to have internet now, to be honest. On Monday was my birthday, and
yes.
I ended up, only a handful of hours after we stopped streaming, our entire house lost internet.
Wow.
So yeah, it was at like 1 or 2 o'clock or something like that in the afternoon. And we were like, well, we can't watch movies. We can't play games. We can't use our apps on our phone to order food. We couldn't do a lot of stuff. It was a little bit of a struggle, but it was fun. Yeah.
Okay. Good.
So.
Good. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're recovered. I'm glad you have the internet so you can be on the show. That's the number one thing,
Exactly.
And we're going to jump into a lot of things today. I hope you all had a good evening. You relaxed a little bit. No, I know the world's going crazy and there's a lot going on to keep up on. But we hope you're getting the rest that you need and then taking the time that you need to kind of get yourself level so you can enjoy the things that are going on in your life and the shows that we bring you here on the Outlaw Nation, like Mornings with the Outlaw. So let's jump into it, Alex, shall we?
Let's go for it, man.
All right, let's do it. Our first story comes to us from Bill and Ted 3. Bill and Ted Face the Music. That's right. That new trailer dropped yesterday from Orion Pictures. It was so great. Let me tell you, Alex, you're not old enough to remember this, but seeing the Orion logo, for those of us who grew up in the 80s, it kind of puts a special nostalgic
I don't know what you're talking about. The Orion logo is pretty iconic. Everyone knows.
Okay, all right, fair enough. But for those of us growing up, it just has a lot of meaning seeing that Orion Pictures logo again. It's pretty awesome. The film is coming out, still scheduled to come out on August 21st. Right now, they have not moved that release date. This is coming 29 years after Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, which of course was the second film in the Bill and Ted. Now we can say Bill and Ted trilogy with Keanu Reeves and Alex Winter reprising their roles as Bill and Ted. They're now middle-aged, and as we see in the trailer, a group of floating visitors led by the great Holland Taylor from the future warn the duo that only their song can save all of humanity, and they haven't written that song yet. They kind of got on with their lives, and they were playing for, so many thousands, as we hear in the trailer, and then they're playing for like 40 people who were there for a $2 taco night. So pretty bad fall from grace for those two gentlemen. But so much more is explored here in the trailer. We get a shot of their two daughters with Samara Weaving there. We get Bill Sadler coming back as Death, who was interested in Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. And we get them going into the future to get their song that they wrote in the future. And they stumble upon their jacked up future selves in prison. We don't know why they're in prison, but they're pretty jacked up. And Keanu ends the trailer by saying, "Liked your song. A bit too dark, but I liked your song."
That was good.
What's your familiarity with the Bill and Ted franchise, Alex? And did you like this trailer?
I never seen them, the first or second one.
Okay.
It's just that I remember being told I need to watch them. I remember my dad being like, "You need to watch this. They're funny movies." But at the same time, I also didn't like Robert Zemeckis' Back to the Future movie. And
wait,
that's just me.
You didn't like? You don't like Back to the Future?
It's not my cup of tea. That's fine. It's just not my cup of tea. It's not a hot take. I don't hate it or anything.
It is a hot take if you're saying you don't like Back to the Future.
I mean, it's just not my cup of tea. That's fine.
Okay.
Of
course. We have a right not to like it.
The Godfather, that's fine. I love The Godfather, but with this. But so for a while, I was just like, well, it's a timey-wimey time travel movie, so hard pass. And not to mention, well, the thing is, I also did try watching the first one a few months ago, but I watched like 20 minutes, and I was like, I don't want to watch anymore. I'm done. I'm good. I tried watching it, and it just didn't play out. But I do want to sit down and actually watch these movies. They are cult classics, and well, not really cult classics anymore. They're pretty universally beloved at this point, honestly. Yeah. So I just think I need to just get myself together and just tough it out and watch it.
Absolutely, you need to. Yeah, I mean, look, these are great. I'm not going to say this correctly. Not great. I want to say the first film is absolutely just a sweet, charming, funny, interesting film. And when you go back to look at it now, I guess it's right as Keanu is kind of like coming into knowledge in the pop culture, right? People getting to know who he is, what he's all about. All that right. That's around that same time as well. Alex Winter went on to become a TV director. He's done other things as well, but Keanu's here in kind of right before he's about to move in, a few years away from moving into his pure peak as a movie star. He is funny. He is great in the film. The second film, not as strong, but still enjoyable for the Bill Sadler stuff, because it's playing, of course, on The Seventh Seal, that classic Ingmar Bergman film that Max von Sydow was in. And so it plays on that idea of death. What does it mean to play with death? And in the first film, they're trying to go and bring these people from the past into the future so they can, get their papers done on time for their history class. But they're also supposed to write this song, and but with George Carlin as Rufus leading them.
I've seen the George Carlin episode, scene.
Right,
he's great. He's wonderful. I am kind of curious how they're gonna.
Yeah, it's a great point you bring up, Alex. Yeah. They didn't reference who would be taking Rufus's spot in the trailer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I mentioned, I have not seen the movie, but I actually know George Carlin's scenes. There's like some of them I'm like, I don't care about the movie, but these scenes is George Carlin. I mean, like, I don't care who you are. He's a funny guy.
He is very much so. Yeah,
he's pretty fantastic. I am really kind of curious to see who they're going to have replace his role. But at the same time, I don't want anyone to replace his role. If that makes sense. Like, are we gonna have like Wanda Sykes? Are we gonna have Tiffany Haddish? Are we gonna have?
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of options. Heck, are we just gonna have John Mulaney? I don't know.
Maybe Chris Rock. Chris Rock is a possibility too, as well.
That, yeah.
Let's see what Alex says, though. Someone says, Alex, you don't like the classic Who Framed Roger Rabbit either. Have you seen that one?
No, not.
Oh, Star Drew, you got your money. $20 if Alex hasn't seen Who Framed Roger Rabbit. All right, there you go. Mandy, you got yourself some $20.
Yeah, I've seen scenes from that movie. I believe it's directed by Robert Zemeckis again. Maybe it's just Robert Zemeckis movies I haven't seen all that much of.
Well, you've seen Forrest Gump, right? You've seen Forrest Gump.
That is a movie I know every line of. Okay, it is embarrassing how much how my dad would quiz me at the dinner table on that movie. I'm not exaggerating. I wish I was exaggerating. He would be like, "You ain't nothing but a hound dog," and he's like, "Who played him? Who was in the background?" And I'd be like, "Kurt Russell," and he's like, "You got 5 seconds," and I'll be like.
That's how it goes. That's an interesting TV dinner for sure. Well, yeah. Dean Pariseau, who did Galaxy Quest, which is one of my favorite films. Not sure if you've seen that one, Alex.
I love Galaxy Quest.
Right, he is directing this one, and Chris Matheson and Ed Solomon are returning. They were the co-writers for the first two films. And this has been going on for about 10 years. They've been trying to do this film for 10 years, so it's finally happening. We only got a minute and a half. I would have liked to have seen some more, to be honest with you, but enough to see those guys reprising the roles and feeling themselves. It's good seeing Keanu back. I mean, not a lot of movie stars kind of go back and do these characters again. Like in Revenge of the Nerds, Anthony Edwards only came back for one scene in the sequel. He never fully came back as one of the nerds ever again. Seeing Keanu, who does not even have to step back into this world again, like kind of not take himself so seriously and be able to come back into this role is great to see the long hair and everything. So we get just enough from the trailer to get us excited for what's to come. The poster, which we just put up, they just released that new poster. Looks great as well. And the phone booth is still there. The phone booth is still there. So there's a lot to get us excited about for those of us who've seen the first two films. And I think the trailer struck the right chord as well, keeping the vibe going from the first two movies. And nowadays, when everything's going insane, maybe a fun, turn your brain off, remembering the 80s type of film, and the message of being excellent to each other is not a bad message to have out there in our world right now.
Yes, absolutely. When it comes to, I think Keanu Reeves, he's also been very vocal about it, how he's doing this for the fans. He's obviously not doing this for the money or from contractual obligations or anything. He's like, my fans are amazing. They made me they put me where I am today. I'm intensely grateful. Not to mention, he's also vocal about how much he just genuinely enjoyed being a part of this franchise. It is such a beloved franchise, and for around the world. Sorry, I don't know if you can hear my cats. Very vocal.
No, not yet. No.
Okay, fingers crossed. Not for a while then. But also, I mean, like now more than ever, I believe they started filming this movie in 2018, and so him making a lot of movies like John Wick, things like that, and these it's a lot of more of these physically intense roles. He's just like, I really need also a movie that just makes me happy again, a movie that's fun, very lighthearted, not nearly as demanding. So this movie will definitely, I don't want to say it's going to guaranteed make a whole lot of money come late August, because I do respect that they're staying confident with it. They're sticking with it, and I respect that. But I don't know how much money it's going to make, but I'm so glad everyone is, coming back to really reprise the roles.
I think you've got a great, you bring up an excellent point. We've seen so many films recently that have come out kind of trading in on that 80s nostalgia, but haven't really done well at the box office. I mean, one of the biggest ones, Blade Runner 2049, people loving that first Blade Runner, but Blade Runner 2049, which I love, but not a lot of people enjoy or didn't make a lot of money at the box office. That's something to take a look at here. We'll see like the Child's Play film didn't do well. A number of other 80s films that have come out or connected to the 80s films haven't done well recently. And so people are worried.
Just weaning out of popularity right now. Where as far, to me, like I know a lot of 80s nostalgia movies, TV, things like that are definitely not as popular as they used to be, even just like in the past year, especially. So.
Yeah. And we'll see how Top Gun Maverick does if it maintains its December release date, how that's going to...
a whole different category.
True.
That's a whole different subject. It's Tom Cruise, my dude. We're going to get if I don't get a homoerotic volleyball scene, I will riot.
I think you're going to get a football scene from the trailer, that's for sure.
No, it needs to be volleyball. Volleyball was a sport of the 80s for men. So
Right, but it's now. It's set nowadays, so we're not going to get volleyball. So maybe something else. But here's the rest of the cast. As I mentioned, Samara Weaving in this thing. Bridget Lundy-Payne. We mentioned William Sadler already. Kid Cudi is in this thing. Beck Bennett from SNL's in this. Holland Taylor, as I mentioned. Kristen Schaal. Jayma Mays, Jillian Bell, and our boy Anthony Carrigan, who, of course, plays NoHo Hank in Barry. If you haven't seen Barry, he's fantastic in that thing. Erin Hayes is in here as Princess Elizabeth. I like Erin Hayes as an actress. She's very, very funny. And I think that's of note. Those are the actors of note that I see here on the list. So a good assembling of people, a good list of actors. And we'll see as we get close to the release date if we get a longer trailer and how much more of the story we get from there. But either way, I personally feel like I'm excited to see what's coming down the pike. Let us know what you think down below in the comments section as well as you're watching this later after we've done it live. Also, remember the Super Chats and the Streamlabs are up for you all to send in your comments, send in your questions for us, and no question is too big or too small. And please send in your donations. You know those things keep the lights on here in the Outlaw Nation. We had one Super Chat that came in from Larry Elise all the way back here. He said, "Hey, I'm so excited for Bill and Ted 3, greatest franchise of all time." Whoa, whoa,
that's a big statement. I respect that. That's an incredibly sentimental statement.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect way to present that. A sentimental statement. Absolutely.
Very sentimental. But the answer is, I would have to say, the Highlander. Movie.
You're insane. You're insane. What's wrong with you? Tavishka Productions sent in a couple of Streamlabs. Said, I was going to give Alex a compliment until she said Back to the Future was a cup of mud or something close to that, and that she hasn't seen any of the Bill and Ted's. We still love you, but we'll be praying for your salvation. LOL.
You know what movie I just saw for the first time? Actually, this week. I saw for the first time on Sunday, Sound of Music. On Saturday, I saw West Side Story for the first time. Great movie. I was like, oh, both directed by Robert Weiss.
Yeah,
well, one of them directed by Robert Weiss. But also at the same time, both about women named Maria. So interesting.
Oh, well, it's Maria Von Trapp. Yes, that's right. Very good points. And then we got one more Streamlab that came through here. What Tavishka, again, sending it in, said, what movie gives you the most nostalgia or good vibes? For me, it will always be Kindergarten Cop and Coming to America. Certainly Coming to America does for me, and Top Gun. I will always say that Top Gun immediately takes me back to being 15 years old again and seeing that thing. So I love Top Gun to pieces for that reason. What about you, Alex? Do you have a film that is a nostalgic film for you?
I'm really going to show my age when I say this.
Please.
But Pokemon, the first movie. That was one of the first movies I ever saw in theaters.
Okay.
I was obsessed with the TV show, and I remember bawling my eyes out in theater. And thing is, I sat down to watch that movie from start to finish.
Yeah.
Like maybe a few months ago, I was still bawling, and I was like, Pika. Like grossly weeping. I wasn't like cute crying where I'm just like,
right.
I was like, oh God, Ash. He sacrificed himself and it was symbolic.
Oh my gosh.
It's so beautiful. The animation. All the Pokemon. I could rap the Poke song.
I love it.
Misty,
I love it.
Brooke.
Oh, this is good. I like this. Michael Nip asking us thoughts on HBO pulling Gone with the Wind. Yeah, this broke last night. That HBO Max has pulled Gone with the Wind off of their streaming service for now, and apparently they're adding some disclaimer to the movie, and then they're going to put it back up. From what I hear, what do you think about this, Alex?
It kind of reminded me a little bit of Disney putting little disclaimers at the beginning of some of their films that are
like
older.
Song of the South. Yeah,
Song of the South, Fantasia, things like that, where they're kind of editing. I don't know how much they're going to edit, or maybe because I know Disney, they flat out straight up edited entire movies. They didn't do just disclaimers. They did do some disclaimers, but not many.
Was that your cat or you?
That was my cat. My cat is, I don't know. He's just like doing, it's a playtime right now. I don't understand.
So. Yeah, I guess
they're
so.
They're just going back and forth. I'm in the basement.
Yeah.
Like there's no toy. It's in just an open room. They're just going back and forth in this room. I'm sorry. We're not talking about movies anymore. I apologize.
Go ahead. So did you like the idea of them pulling it for now?
I don't know. I don't think movies should be edited to that extent, personally. Not to say that these are bad movies, but I do think that movies are a reflection of the time, and we should acknowledge that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's if a movie is bad, if a movie doesn't age well, that's a conversation you have to have.
Yeah.
When reviewing it, when you watch it for the first time, that's why and audiences obviously change the first time I see a movie versus something I see Bill and Ted versus when the first time you see Bill and Ted.
Yeah.
Some movies age incredibly well, and some movies are trash. So, those are always fun conversations to have.
I don't disagree. I mean, I look, I know people's initial reaction are like, "Oh, this is ridiculous." They're pulling, but the film is terrible. I'm not a big fan of Gone with the Wind. It bores me to tears. It's overdone. It's overwrought. It's a very stylized performance of quote unquote acting. Although Clark Gable is fantastic in the film. If you're going to give me Vivian Leigh, I'll take Vivian Leigh in Streetcar Named Desire and about 10 other films before I take her performance in Gone with the Wind. I don't mind them taking out, put a disclaimer. I mean, this is a classic film that is still if you adjust for inflation, the highest grossing film of all time. So you have to give that credit to Gone with the Wind. It's not overtly racist, but it does have, a racist character in terms of how it's being portrayed by Hattie McDaniel, but then she won an Oscar for that. So it's a very, it's not an easy, black and white situation, for lack of a better term. It's a little more gray, a little more complex. And a lot of people do love that movie. Because if we start taking down these kinds of movies, then I think you got to take down Breakfast at Tiffany's for that horrible portrayal by Mickey Rooney of that Japanese character in that film. I think that should absolutely, if you're going to do this with Gone with the Wind, you better do this with Breakfast at Tiffany's. You better start going through some of these classic films and start taking them down as well and putting disclaimers on them. I mean, Looney Tunes does that with some of their cartoons. As you mentioned, Disney does that with some of their smaller cartoons and Song of the South, if they ever put that up again. So I'm cool with people doing this, but be consistent. That's my only thing. Be consistent across the board.
Absolutely. I think when you are critiquing a movie, especially one that's that established and old, and I say I don't love the movie, but I love movies about bad characters. And I like that about her character. It's like she's a character I love to hate,
Okay.
I'm like,
and you mean in Gone with the Wind?
Gone with the Wind, yes.
Yeah.
Vivian Leigh's character, she's unapologetically awful, and I love really that. It's things like that. Why I love movies about that. That's why American Psycho is one of my favorite movies of all time. Right. So, but I don't think it's fair to really edit movies like that. Yes, I think in order to adequately review movies, especially classic movies like that, you have to talk about that. Why things don't age well. I think those are pivotal to the conversation, and that's something we have to acknowledge. Moving forward. I mean, studios weren't PC. And a lot of studios today aren't as PC as we'd like them to be. But, it's a learning curve more than ever right now. Especially. Yeah,
I mean, that film, Birth of the Nation, if I'm getting that right.
Which one?
Is the original one, Birth of a Nation from 1915.
Oh,
a lot of film classes used to teach that film because so much of those techniques were used in films going forward. Yet it's an incredibly racist film that turns the KKK into heroes. And so it's a terrible, terrible film in that way. So I'm glad we're no longer using that film to teach anything. And nor should any class be using that film to teach anything anymore, for God's sakes, about film. Use the films that were inspired by that film as the teaching tools instead. So we've had problematic films before and dealt with them. I don't think Gone with the Wind is at the level of the Birth of a Nation. But I totally understand pulling it down and putting a disclaimer on these films. I have no problem with that. I just don't think they should be censored or where you can't watch them, but putting the disclaimer up is fine.
If you censor Gone with the Wind, it takes place during the Civil War.
Yeah.
If you are going to remove different themes of racism, different themes of her relationship, her interaction, with her maid, that like how do like you said, you're taking a lot away from the movie. Also, you kind of remove a lot of character development behind Vivian Leigh's character as well. Yeah.
That's a fair point.
So it's very different versus when characters and scenes are very pivotal, pivotal to the movie, in order to actually for it to make sense. But also there's just some movies that are actually complete trash that I don't feel like we should really acknowledge ever again.
Fair point. Davishka goes on to ask us, what movie gives you the most nostalgia or good vibe? Oh, yeah, we already talked about that. Sorry. We're moving on to the Streamlabs, or sorry, the Super Chats. We got Ratson King. He says, if milking 80s nostalgia is the new trend in Hollywood, can I please finally have my Brazil sequel? Ratson, I love your point of view. I love that you want a Brazil sequel, but there is no way on God's green earth that any studio is going to greenlight a Brazil sequel, because Terry Gilliam does not put butts in seats anymore and doesn't make money off his movies anymore, unfortunately. But I would have loved to have seen a Brazil sequel. Maybe he can do one for a streaming service down the road for a little bit of a tighter budget. We shall see.
I would love to see that.
Have you seen Brazil? You've seen Brazil?
Yes, I've seen Brazil.
That one you've seen. All right, interesting.
Like I said, growing up, there was only 200 movies that I saw like on repeat. I didn't watch a lot of new movies. Like Psycho Beach Party, I've seen it 5 bazillion times. Silence of the Lambs, I've seen 5 bazillion times. That's a mother-daughter movie for me.
Oh,
so
nice. Interesting
it is. I started watching that when I was like 9 years old with my mom.
Oh my God.
We were part of a book club when I was in middle school, and
You shouldn't be reading Silence of the Lambs at 9 years old.
No, I didn't read the book. I started reading when I was 12, probably. But I was like part of a book club with my mom and some of her friends where we read the Hannibal series. But regardless, the Hannibal Lecter series is a mother-daughter franchise for me. So, but I know that's a whole other conversation.
I think I got to get your mom on Outlaw Nation. I think I have to get your mom for an interview.
It's a fun time. Yeah, I think she also just loves them because she's a doctor, and she's like, Hannibal Lecter's a cool one. Yeah. Anyway, but I would love to see Brazil, just because also it's a movie that is really cool that, visually speaking, even if you don't care about, the plot or the characters, whatever, visually, it's so cool, especially, coming from the 80s. And, I would love to see that play out, especially now we can get a lot weirder, with that world building that he really was able to create.
Yeah, and shout out to your mom. Happy birthday or belated birthday to her. So there you go.
I know.
Ben Rayner says, hi, guys. Happy Wednesday. Love the trailer. It's something we need right now. Be excellent to each other. Also, hit that like button, people. Yeah, be excellent to us and hit that like button, that thumbs up button that gives us some love here on the show. Absolutely. The more likes you give it, the higher up we go on that algorithm of YouTube to get noticed by YouTube themselves. So there you go. Give us some love and leave comments if you're watching us afterwards instead of live. So, all right, let's see what else we got next. I think we got one more here. Smos of the North says, Frenchie in the house. What's up, Frenchie? When it comes to the new Joker, my pick is Rami Malek. In my opinion, he would fit perfectly. Thoughts, and what are your picks? Yeah, there's a rumor going around, and I know Christian and them talked about it yesterday. I didn't want to put it on here because it hasn't officially been confirmed, but there's a rumor going around that Matt Reeves might be looking for a new Joker to put in the Batman. And we don't know if he's going to be in the movie or if he's going to be alluded to, and then we'll be in the next movie, kind of following that Nolan blueprint. But if you were to look for a Joker for Robert Pattinson, who would you want to have, Alex?
I wouldn't have a Joker in my movie. That's what I would have. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know. I would have to give that some thought if I had to pick. If I had to be involved in the casting decision for, Matt Reeves' Joker. But also, we've had a lot of Joker over the past decade, and I don't want to say I'm over the Joker, but at the same time, I definitely want to let Joaquin Phoenix's Joker breathe a little bit. That movie won several Oscars. He's definitely one of the favorite adaptations of the Joker, and we should let it breathe for sure. But we've had a lot of Joker movies in the past decade, so I don't want another one, to be honest. So
I agree with you.
Let's move some love over to the Riddler, to Penguin, Calendar Man. Hey, Condiment Man. Let's get weird, okay?
You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts. Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I think let the Joker breathe a little bit. Joaquin was incredible in that role. People are referencing it now after everything that's going on. So I absolutely love that. I just don't. I think let it breathe for a little bit. I agree with you, and then we'll circle back around to the Joker again. All right, let's move on to our next story. And remember the Streamlabs Super Chat. Send them in as you think of them as we go along. And tell me, Alex, what we got coming up next here.
Okay, I almost called you girl.
Girl,
okay.
That's all right.
Girl,
That's,
okay.
I'll take it.
Okay, so I got some beef. Okay, so Rami Malek as well. Not Rami Malek. That's a very different person. Okay, Sam Raimi is going to be collaborating with Bruce Campbell again in the Evil Dead franchise again, which I'm super psyched about. It is it's actually come forward, but by Ryan Scott from MovieWeb that they're going to be collaborating on another Evil Dead film. So Sam Raimi actually selected his director, who's going to be Lee Cronin. He directed only a few movies. Actually, his last year, 2019's The Hole in the Ground, was actually his feature film debut. But the thing is, it's actually kind of developed a series cult following, but also has 84% on Rotten Tomatoes and in his directorial debut. So that's a huge achievement. But he also, worked with Raimi on the Quibi series 50 States of Fright. So he's no stranger to that kind of thriller horror aspect. Now, Raimi, he did mention as well, we're just getting off the phone with Lee Cronin, who is writing and directing the next Evil Dead. It's called Evil Dead Now. Sam handpicked Lee. He did a cool movie called The Hole in the Ground. We are going to get that sucker out as soon as practical.
Yeah.
So he's I love that he's being so hands-on. Obviously, Raimi, he's been very vocal about. I mean, they're both so fantastic when it comes to these roles. It's such a beloved, cult franchise, the Evil Dead franchise. I am super excited that they're going to be going into this. After the ending of Ash vs. Evil Dead, the TV show was canceled, unfortunately. It definitely left us wanting. So I'm excited as a fan to really see this come back, especially with Bruce Campbell and Sam Raimi being involved. Are you a big fan of the franchise?
Yeah, I like the Evil. I like Evil Dead 2. I enjoy Army of Darkness. I know people absolutely love Army of Darkness. I didn't see past maybe the first couple of episodes of the series, so for whatever reason, just kind of I didn't get into it or what. I may need to revisit it as we slowly keep going with the self-isolation right now. I may need to revisit that film as well. But that being said, I've always respected Sam Raimi and always loved Bruce Campbell. If you haven't seen his Bubba Hotep, that's one to watch for sure to get a good idea of why his sensibilities match so well with Sam Raimi's. I'm glad, like you said, that they're both involved in this. Bruce Campbell said he's never coming back to be a part of the Evil Dead franchise. So it's clear that he will be on the producing side of this thing, a consulting side of this thing. I love that. And of course, these quotes are coming. Yeah, MovieWeb covered it, but these quotes are coming from an interview with Empire Magazine for their Heroes edition, which will be dropping on July 12th, I think. And it's their July 2020 issue, but you can get it starting July 12th, or you can pre-order it. Looks like an extensive edition of their magazine, and I think they do one every few years. That's pretty fun to take a look at. He said about going forward, he said from this point forward, they kind of have to stand on their own. He means the movies, which is fine and liberating. You could have different heroes, different heroines in this case. This one's going to be a little more dynamic. We just want to keep the series current, and the mantra really is that our heroes and heroines are just regular people. That's what we're going to continue. And it's kind of maybe a little bit of an illusion that we're going to once again have a female lead in this Evil Dead movie, which we had in Fede Alvarez's Evil Dead movie, which was in essence a reboot, but still from the same universe. But it starred what's her Jane Levy, who was fantastic on Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist, and Suburgatory. She was a part of this. But it seems like and I think Ash vs. Evil Dead also had the female lead. So we're maybe going this route where we go to have another female lead in this version of the movie as well, which I'm totally fine with. I like this idea that they're coming back. I like the title. It's not Evil Dead 4, Evil Dead. It's Evil Dead Now. So I like that as a way of saying that's an updated version of Evil Dead. So yeah, I'm down. I'm absolutely down.
Yeah, I'm pretty psyched. I don't know to what extent, people will be coming back with their roles or anything.
Yeah.
But Sam Raimi is definitely one of those directors. It seems like he has a very genuine connection and collaborative relationship with Bruce Campbell.
Yeah.
I mean, Bruce Campbell, he was in Spider-Man 2 and 3.
Right.
Little cameos, which is really cute. I just remember being like, hey. I remember just seeing this movie for the first time, and I was like, I know who you are, which is really awesome. But I'm really excited. The 2013's Evil Dead was directed by Fede Alvarez.
Yeah.
However, it didn't make as much money as they hoped. I would have to find out how much specifically, but I think they had like a budget of like only like 40 something million.
Mm-hmm.
But it didn't make that much money when it did come out in theaters, though, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And so, they definitely recuperated a lot, some of it, through, DVD sales and everything, but it wasn't the big reboot they were kind of hoping for, and Fede Alvarez, he's definitely become a much more of a established, director since, but I'm really kind of curious to see how this one's going to play out. Not to mention from Lee Cronin. How do you feel about Lee Cronin? This is going to be like one of his first movies. Are you confident in him potentially taking on this role after only doing like one movie prior, or do you feel like it should have kind of gone to someone a little more established?
Well, I think it's a funny thing because it's in reverse what's happening with Sam Raimi, right? Sam Raimi being brought on to the MCU to do Doctor Strange 2. This is a seasoned director, normally a veteran director. Normally they've gone with younger talent to come into the MCU, burgeoning talent to do their work in the MCU, so you get the fresh young voice. You know what I'm saying? But with Sam Raimi coming into the MCU, this is more of a seasoned veteran voice. But the reverse is here. Lee Cronin is a newer director, and maybe Sam working with him on that movie series and seeing his film, which by the way is at like 84% or 87% on Rotten Tomatoes. So it didn't do so well with the box office, but it did get a lot of love from the critics. So maybe Sam saw something here with this director that fits the sensibilities of the Evil Dead universe. Maybe Cronin is an actually big fan of the Evil Dead universe and has a new take on it and a creative take on it. So I trust Sam Raimi. This is his baby. So I trust Sam. If Sam says this is the director for this film and I like him, then he gets he gets the benefit of the doubt for me. So I'm good to go with it.
Absolutely. I'm thinking he's probably going to go in the same direction as, James Wan, with the Conjuring franchise as well, where he might be, obviously taking on not only that kind of producerial role, obviously, but I feel like he probably wants to take on that kind of mentorship role as well. James Wan obviously is hugely involved in the Conjuring franchise, even though he only directed the first few.
Right.
But he handpicks the directors going into the next ones, and he's like, hey, I'm going to help you out. And, we'll see what happens next. So I'm wondering if it's going to be a very similar situation as well. So but also if you're going to be mentored by any awesome director, Sam Raimi's a pretty great pick. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah. I mean, that's the one you want to be under. Yeah, exactly. Fair point.
Sure.
And we'll see. I mean, I'm excited. We'll see. I'm sure this is going to take a while because I know, Bruce is saying as soon as possible, and maybe that is sooner than we think. And I think that transitions into our next story. And please, what do you think about the Evil Dead? Let us know in the comments section below. Do you like this idea of Evil Dead 4? Do you like this director Lee Cronin coming in, or did the last Evil Dead movie not do it for you? So you're a little worried. Let us know. But as I said, we transitioned to this thing. When will we see this thing? Well, a lot of news came out over the last couple of days about movie theaters, about production opening up in Los Angeles. Let's jump into it now. These movie theaters, the California movie theaters, can begin reopening on Friday. That's right. This Friday, for the love of God, in most counties, if they limit theater capacity to 25% of their capacity or no more than 100 attendees. This will include Los Angeles County. Some people thought Los Angeles County would be the last county to open, but it is part of this list. Already we've seen restaurants, churches, hair salons, retail stores all of that open. The state, California, is recommending reservation systems, designated arrival times, designated certain seats that moviegoers can sit in, so they maintain that 6 feet of distance. They're being asked to wear their masks when entering and exiting the theater or buying concessions. And the state is also suggesting the theaters use disposable or washable seat covers that are easy to clean and prop open doors so people don't have to touch handles. All this just to watch a movie. But the important thing that connects to Evil Dead 4 here, Evil Dead Now, is that the state is also allowing film, music, and television production to resume, subject to labor agreements. That's right. Film, television, and commercial production make up a significant amount of the economy for Los Angeles. So why not put this in motion? The state official said all guidance should be implemented only with the county health officer approval following their review of local epidemiological data, including cases per 100,000 population, rate of test positivity, and local preparedness to support a healthcare surge, vulnerable populations, contact tracing, and testing. We have more than 130,000 coronavirus cases in California with 4,600 deaths, and this is very interesting decision to be made. But let's go into AMC as well. They opened their books on Tuesday, and they reported a net loss of $2.2 billion, Alex, for the first quarter, which ended on March 31st. That is a pretty penny. I don't need to tell you for AMC to be taking a loss on it. Maybe that's part of the reason why these theaters are reopening, is a lot of these theater chains and mom and pop theaters have suffered tremendous losses. And so there's a frustration amongst them, maybe a push, a lobbying effort going on to make sure these theaters open sooner rather than later to try to recoup some of that money. I don't know that opening theaters to 25% capacity or 100 people or less is going to bring you any money. And the fact that you don't have any new product to put up on the screen, you're essentially turning theaters across the country and in LA into revival houses. So what do you think about this?
Well, AMC has reopened 10 of its theaters in Norway, Germany, Spain, Portugal, and currently, like you said, currently expect to fully open.
Yeah.
You know, it's very state by state, location by location, obviously. California in particular is very different because you guys have more theaters than anywhere in the US.
We do.
Yes, there's a lot of them. You know, it's a little bit different versus I don't want to compare. I feel bad comparing, you know, the amount of theaters and just theater access for locations in LA. I feel like that's a very different conversation versus like when I used to live in South Dakota, you know, there would be like one town, you know, theater, and there would only be like 3 theaters within that location. So, you know, I don't feel like they should be on the same level, you know, same conversation. So, and I don't feel like we should treat them as such, you know, especially like as far as when they should open, you know, because obviously some places are much more popular than others. Yeah, it is really weird to see, but also, I mean, like they're under desperate circumstances. You know, we've talked, you know, previously about how the independent movie theater industry in general is completely waning. You know, and you know, this is probably they're on their last nail. You know, a lot of independent mom and pop shops are probably gonna die out here within the next few years as a direct result from this. And so I don't blame them for trying to be involved as much as they are. And plus they're probably not expecting to actually make any real money until Tenet potentially. And so, and they need to be able to prep and accommodate, you know, up until then. So by the time Tenet is able to by the time Tenet comes on and more people might be more confident, and that means more butts and seats and everything, they'll be much better prepared, because obviously if they opened up for the first time in however long, a few days before Tenet released, shit would hit the fan. You know, people would not be prepped appropriately. People would be freaking out. So they're like, well, we need to open slowly, get people acclimated to this process all over again. So I definitely understand where they're coming from, you know, and not to mention, like I said, there's no new content coming out right now. So I am kind of curious what they might be showing as a result.
And that's exactly what you know, what I was saying earlier is like, they're just going to show like, I think the issue then said they were going to show,
classics?
Yeah, classic films or nostalgic films or high quality films that people like Back to the Future or Jurassic Park. Essentially what China did. When China reopened their theaters, they went with a lot of the standard classic fare that is a pop culture mainstay films, some superhero films to try to get people in the theater. Didn't 100% work. And then, of course, they shut their theaters down again because the second wave came rolling through. So you look at this situation here, and you're right, not all theaters are going to be opening. Because you look at the situation and see, well, we don't have any new content and we don't really want to sell or because you're going to have to bring your staff back on. How much of your staff are you going to need? Yeah. What's their precautionary measures that you're taking with them? What films are you going to show? How many are people really going to show up to see these films, like you said, or are they going to wait till Tenet comes out? And then AMC saying they won't open until July. So these things are slowly starting to roll out these theaters. We'll see how many really open across the country and see how the reaction to that is going to be. Because they did that study the other day. 70% of people said they were just fine staying home and watching new releases from the comfort of their home. That's a chilling statistic if you're a movie theater owner or a movie theater chain. Now, that we may never go back to that time when people went at the numbers that they went before coronavirus. Once people taste the possibility of another existence and they go, oh, it's not so bad, then it's really hard to force them or get them back to the other way of existence if that other way of existence still is around. So I think that's the thing at the end of the day. Are they going to just bar any of these movies from being released on video on demand as we go forward, or until movies are being shown in the theaters again? Or are they going to come into some kind of partnership where day and date movies can be dropped? Because Universal certainly said they wanted to do that. So I think we're gonna see over June and July what happens, and if there's a spike in the cases and people start getting stuff out of going to movie theaters, then we're gonna really kind of have to re-explore the idea of movie theaters themselves, and that is something I never thought I would say in my entire lifetime.
That's really interesting because I totally feel I expected that in my lifetime at some point.
Oh, did you? Okay.
It's been a conversation about, the relevancy of movie theaters.
Yeah.
Especially in this world where, we like being comfortable at our own house. I love going to movie theaters. I also have a love-hate relationship going to the movie theaters. Yeah. I love the idea of having a dinner date and going over there and, going to a movie right after and bonding over a new movie, that kind of thing. And, seeing a movie for the first time on a big theater, okay, so after I make this point, I can't wait to talk about what movies we would want to see in this theater okay. And on the big screen. That's a awesome question, but, most movies I don't feel require a theater experience. I don't need to see Trolls in theater. I don't need to see Scoob in theater. I don't need to see Fede Alvarez's Evil Dead in theaters. Would it be cool? Yeah, but I don't need it. So it's just how relevant they will be in the future is they're definitely on their last leg, and I don't want to see theaters leave, but at the same time I understand why, and it's just not as comfortable as just being in my PJs at home and going to the bathroom whenever I want, and getting up and no one's going to judge me for eating 3 boxes of Cheez-Its in one sitting. The judgment isn't there.
Wait, 3 full boxes of Cheez-Its?
I'm sensing being judged right now, Rocha, and I do not appreciate it.
3 whole boxes? I can see the 3 mini boxes, but the 3 whole boxes in one sitting?
This is not
much respect to your metabolism.
This is not amateur hour, dude. I'm like a bear.
I'm jealous. I'm jealous.
It's just my relationship with Cheez-Its. It's I purposely do not get Cheez-Its because I know if I get Cheez-Its, I can't stop. I literally eat them by the handful. I'm not eating 1 or 2 at a time. Maybe I'm not like a rabbit. I am like a kraken.
Yeah.
Eating cities.
It's
not cute.
Yeah.
It's not cute. My relationship with Cheez-Its is really weird, and I have to drink Ovaltine with it. It's really funky. It's a weird combination. But anyway, since we're talking about
wow. Yeah, okay.
I like a weird food combo.
Yeah, no, I like it.
But going back to this, like I said, I've been watching a lot of classic movies for the first time. I saw like West Side Story, Sound of Music for the first time. I would love to see some of these classic movies or even plays come to theaters, the Fathom event style. What would you love to see and, on a theater? Again, I know it's not
right.
It's not necessarily new for you. It is for me, but
yeah. I mean, I think that's the thing. I mean, there have been revival houses in LA since I moved here and before, of course. And so I go to the Egyptian or the Arrow and go see classic movies there, or go see more recently modern classic movies there, which are fun to experience in a theater full of people remembering a film that they saw in the past in the theater, remembering the experience again of seeing it in a crowded theater, or people coming for the first time to see that movie and experiencing it in a crowded theater. So for me, picking out movies that we could show, I guess it depends on the theater, to be honest with you. Who wouldn't want to see the 4K versions of the original trilogy of Star Wars in a large theater like the Uptown in DC or the Cinerama Dome here in LA? Who wouldn't want to see some of the Batman movies or even Man of Steel, which we are on the 7-year anniversary of Man of Steel? I'd absolutely be down with that.
Well, let me reword then.
Okay.
What movies do you feel like need to be shown in a theater?
Oh, that's a good question.
Theater experience, you feel like it's very necessary?
Yeah, I think large movies. That's really my opinion. Tentpole pictures are the ones you have. Yeah, like Transformers or whatever, Avengers. Those are the films you need to see in theaters, I think, because they're shot and they're made so that you can experience them with the highest level of quality, sound, visual stuff, and everything like that has to be experienced fully in a theater. It's shot to be experienced in a massive theater. Whereas the smaller, more independent films, I don't think they need to, or even the medium-sized films like Gone Girl, that doesn't need to be seen in a theater. You can absolutely watch that from the comfort of your home. So it's only the larger films. And I've been saying this for a couple of years now when I was on Collider, and I've been on and doing stuff on this channel, saying like the idea of theaters maintaining, like independent films and medium films is soon to be extinct. I think they'll only start showing very soon. They're only going to start showing the big, large films, and they're going to charge you a higher price amount for those films because they're going to take that money and soup up their theaters. So everyone has the like leather reclining chair. Everyone has that space in a theater to go and enjoy a movie of that level. So you're paying for a premium experience, kind of like what you see on Broadway, where you're paying like $150 for a ticket. Yeah, minimum for a ticket to a Broadway show. I think big, high-profile movies are going to eventually go that way because they have to, validate their budgets.
Absolutely. I think that's a really great point. I would also be, if I'm seeing a double feature or like I mentioned, a play, musical, or whatever it may be, the amount of money I would pay to see something like Beetlejuice on the big screen, the play, musical. I mean, not the movie. The movie is a great time, but still. Sure. But I would love to see that in theaters. But also just because, I don't have access to that here in St. Louis. It's crazy, right? I know. Right. I know some people in the chat mentioned 2001 Space Odyssey.
Yeah, that'd be a great one.
That movie, I feel like I took a nap watching it, but I feel like I would get like the full experience if I actually watched it in the theater. I feel like I would be forced to appreciate it in a new way because I can't, if I'm bored, I'm not going to look at my phone, or anything like that, where it's like super tempting because no one talks for the first like 40 flipping minutes. Like, Jesus, Mary and Joseph. It's so
on purpose.
It's so purpose. So boring. But I feel like I would be forced to sit down and watch some of these movies and really acknowledge, some of them just to its fullest extent.
Yeah. And maybe that's a good thing.
It or not, I have to watch it.
Yeah, there you go. Put
Close
it on the table.
Yeah.
Close Encounters is a good choice. Schmoes of the North said drive-in movie parks being saved by the lack of movies in the theater and is the most safest option these days. Thoughts? Yeah, California has 2 or 3. They got more than that, but 2 or 3 that have stayed open during the pandemic. So people have gone to the drive-in theaters to enjoy. Have you had any drive-in theaters where you're at, Alex?
Yeah. My uncle is actually a co-owner of one over in my neck of the woods.
Oh, okay.
So I've gone to I growing up, every time I visited the St. Louis area, I would go see a movie theater. I saw my first I think I saw Toy Story for the first time in theaters. At a drive-in theater, but it's really cool. It's really interesting to see. It's not like in the movie, not just like in the movie Grease. It's not just it's not doing for that, but right. It's really fun time if you ever get the chance to do it. It can also be a little distracting though as well, because going to a drive-in movie theater, people are not always in the cars. They're like picnicking. They're sitting outside. They are, talking with each other. Kids are running around. So I don't know if I would want to see like the Joker. Joaquin Phoenix is the Joker in a drive-in theater. I feel like I'd be so distracted with everything going on. I would be like, kid, shut up, go leave. I'm about to watch this horrible murder. It's a very different experience.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Skyview Drive. Yes, that's the one.
Yeah. Skyview Drive. Okay. There you go.
Yeah.
There, Chelsea fan saying that. Yeah. Alex, thank you, Jake, putting in the Streamlabs address there. Yeah, please send in your Streamlabs, send in your super chats as we talk about all of this stuff, certainly. But yeah, shout out to Skyline Drive there from Chelsea fan 1977. That's Skyview Drive, rather. There you go. Yeah, so the drive-ins have actually made their money and done their thing, absolutely. And so we'll see if that trend continues. As theaters reopen and people don't want to go necessarily to that experience and would rather feel safer in their cars and going to see it in a drive-in movie. Once again, the nostalgia of a drive-in movie as well. So
it's also depending on the weather as well. Obviously, if something happens and it just starts raining sporadically, you're screwed. It doesn't matter if you're there on a date or whatever, maybe you're screwed.
True. Very true. All right, let's take a mini break here before we jump into our next round of topics. And of course, Alex will keep tabs on what happens with the theaters. We'll see responses from people. We'll see how many theaters open, and we'll see what they're going to start showing. I'm sure they'll start announcing their slate of films that will be, kind of negotiated with studios to have screened in their theaters, and we'll see what the attendance figures are like and the money is like as well. And we'll keep tabs on that. But Alex, please, what do you got going on? What do you want to promote here? Anything going on in your world?
Tonight I'm going to be hosting the Schmo Bates episode with Daniel Ramirez as well as Rachel Silvestrini. So that's going to be really, really fun. And here later this week, I'm going to be having Bibbs, the Beast Bibiani. Well, William the Beast Bibiani, not Bibbs the Beast Bibiani. That's a tongue twister. Up against Belfort. So that's going to be a really fun time. And Drew is going to be co-hosting it with me tonight. Starts at 9:30 Central. So it's going to be really fun. Definitely stop by over at the Call to Action podcast. You can search for it on YouTube. And you can find me on Twitter right there.
Right there. Nice. Yeah, please go and patronize everything Alex is doing and enjoy her work hosting those shows. She's a lot of fun. She's really, Schmo Bates is not an easy one to host, and she does an excellent job because it's a lot of yelling sometimes and a lot of debating and people chiming in with their thoughts and their feelings. So she does an excellent job doing that. Having been on the show, I can verify that. So go and enjoy the Schmo Bates tonight. Don't forget, of course, 2 Star Wars matches today on Twitch. For SEN, Schmo Entertainment Network. There will be 2 live matches on Twitch. Dee Malanta taking on Joseph Scrimshaw. And who's the other one again? Molly Damon taking on Adam Witt. Both those going on today. I think starting at 1:30 p.m. PT. So adjust that for whatever time zone you're in. But there. But also here on the Outlaw Nation channel, going to drop Geek Buddies tomorrow. We got a new episode of that dropping, as I mentioned at the top of the show. For those of you maybe weren't here at the top of the show, Jay Washington was my guest last night on the Outlaw Nation show. Please go and watch that and listen to Jay and I, like setting everything on fire, but then also having fun discussions with the fans who are watching. And of course, Calvin makes one of his like uniquely interesting appearances on the show. It's every week. It's got something new and interesting from Calvin as he comes in near the tail end of the show. But certainly a lot of fun was had last night, and some real interesting discussions were had about what's going on in the world nowadays as well. Jay was an excellent guest, and it was my honor to have him on the show. And we made over $700, which we're going to donate to a Black Lives Matter charity or foundation of Jay's choosing to help in the struggle and the fight. Fantastic stuff there last night. Friday, I got that live episode of Strong Style Wrestling episode. We're going to finally cover Hell in the Cell between The Undertaker and Mankind. We're going to revisit that and then talk some wrestling news as well and give our opinions on the pay-per-view NXT takeover that happened over this past weekend. And I've got a review of Be Water, that 30 for 30 documentary on Bruce Lee. Steve Morris, my co-host on the Cinephiles, he joined me, and we did a 30-minute spoiler review of that documentary. He talked about what we enjoyed about the documentary and what we enjoy and love about Bruce Lee himself. So all of that coming up, and I'll probably have a King of Staten Island review coming up, and then Defy Bloods, the Spike Lee Netflix movie that's dropping this weekend. I'll take a look at that one and do a review for that. So all the stuff coming from the Outlaw Nation very, very soon. And, of course, you can follow me right there. And please hit that like button on this stream right now. We're at 184 of you watching us live, but only 99 likes. Come on, guys. Get us to 150 likes as soon as possible, maybe even close to 200 by the time we wrap this thing up in about 28 minutes. So, all right, Alex, let's move on to our next story. Let me pull up the rundown and see where we're moving to next. Oh, I think this is your story. Your guy, Timur. He's jumping up into this thing. Bring it, Alex.
My boy, Timur. Bekmambetov.
Yeah, I think you said it.
That's my dude, Timur. He has actually has a contract with Universal Studios to make 5 more movies, similar to the Unfriended franchise. Unfriended, as well as the sequel, Unfriended Dark Web, but also is very similar to 2018 Searching with John Cho, which was a real intense sleeper hit. A lot of people forget how amazing that movie is, and we should really acknowledge that.
Yes, agreed.
But yeah, so he signed a really awesome deal to make 5 movies using Screenlife technology, and that also keeping in mind that these movies are, they make a lot of money. 2014's Unfriended grossed $64 million on a $1 million budget. And not only that, Screenlife technology, just to let you know what it is, if you're not familiar, Screenlife is a form of storytelling that uses smartphones and computer screens to advance the narrative. So people are actively using computers, phones, and everything the entire time. So it kind of feels almost kind of similar to almost a found footage kind of a situation with a lot of horror thrillers, but it's very just focused on the TV or whatever the situation is, and it's where you're kind of able to experience that, especially right now more than ever. People are on their phones, on the computers nonstop, for connecting with people, figuring things out and learning, so I'm not surprised in the slightest. We've really changed a lot of Hollywood stories to kind of gravitate towards a series. Now, he did mention this is actually brought to us by Deadline's Mike Fleming Jr.
Yep.
And Timur, my boy Timur, says, during this crazy time, we have been living in Screenlife mode. It is a very organic to produce these movies because they can be done while people are at home in a safe place. We are in different cities and we can record screens without meeting each other. It's the nature of this language, this Screenlife format, to work like this. Now more than ever, Hollywood is struggling to make content. Like we just talked about with AMC, Hollywood is struggling to make content and connect with its creators in an effort to make movies. So they're Universal thinking ahead and being like, hey, we recognize this horrible situation. So we are going to be making movies that doesn't have to go through a lot of the traditional aspects like we've done with a lot of other movies. We don't have to wait until next year to start filming or whatever it be. We can just start filming now because people don't even need to be in the same room in order to record to make these movies. So it is not only very cheap, it is safe, it is efficient, and we are going to get movies coming out. What do you think of this contract overall, this kind of introduction to Screenlife mode overall?
Yeah, I love it. I think the medium of film has to expand always in order to maintain the interest and attention of people who love movies. And if this is a new way of expanding it that really limits the production budget and increases the frequency of the volume of films you can make, frequency and volume of films you can make, then that's a positive. Back in the old days, in the 20s and 30s, studios were pumping out like 100 movies a year, not like 10 or 15, 100. They were making them really quick, shooting them in 2 weeks and on to the next film. Timur kind of feels like he's moving into that arena by taking advantage of the technology here. I mean, he says the casting director could cast actors for me all in one day around the world. There's no need for people to come in or send in their tapes or anything like that. If I need a composer, I can Skype and develop ideas, not being in the same space. The editor's in a different city, the visual effects company too. We all work together without being in the same space. So as we're seeing now, I'm doing podcasts remotely. I'm doing these shows remotely. So I'm appearing on shows remotely. So it's all possible. It's all possible to work things out and shoot the movie and do what you need, as long as everybody has the technology. I was just talking to somebody recently, and they spoke about their documentary, and they sent their material to their people that they were going to use for the documentary, and they recorded their part of the documentary and then sent the equipment back to the filmmaker, and then the filmmaker compiled it all together and created the documentary or the film from that. So pretty incredible stuff to be able to do things like that now so remotely. So Timur is just basically taking advantage of the situation. Some people are stuck in the old ways of doing things. He certainly wants to explore a new way of doing things.
Just don't tell Francis Ford Coppola. He'll probably riot against it, honestly. He doesn't like new stuff. Anyway, but yeah, absolutely. Financially, it's not only is it very safe, you don't have to wait until next year or whatever it may be in order to start making these movies. He can start right now. He has been making movies through this unfortunate situation, this unfortunate pandemic, very successfully. And not only are they cheap, fast to make, it is going to guaranteed make a profit. Like I mentioned, 2014's Unfriended grossed $64 million. Searching, it cost $900 million to make. It made almost $30 million. So even if these movies are not your wheelhouse, because most of them are very focused in the horror thriller, that from what we've seen so far, I'm sure with some of these this contract, I'm sure they're going to be experimenting with different genres. I would love to see like a teen rom-com. I would love to see a family drama. Family drama is going on right now. That'd be really cool. I'll be interested to see how that's really going to play out with this Screenlife, shooting style, and how quickly we're going to be getting it. Is this going to be going to some streaming services with Universal, or is this going to be going to theaters? So I'd be very interested to see. Donna Langley and Jason Blum, they have been vocal about a lot of their support as well. Now, obviously, they do more than horror movies and things like that. But, they said about Timur, he said, Timur brings a fresh perspective and distinct voice to all of his work. As the industry further shifts, he finds new ways to connect with audiences across the globe. Timur and the team of Bezalevs, I'm sorry, I butchered that name. I apologize. Blend a unique brand of storytelling with technological creativity that makes these films feel current, relevant, and we look forward to continued shared success as we expand our partnership. So I feel like it's just a guaranteed money-making contract situation. So I'm really excited to see what's going to come from this.
Well, I mean, so many people are involved in this too. Universal, Jason Blum, Blumhouse, they've been doing so great with that Invisible Man movie, and which I have an unboxing for coming up later on today. But like that is incredible as well. And they're going to, we got the Ryan Gosling possibly being in the werewolf movie. So certainly they're not afraid to go small to go big. And so I think it's a brilliant situation for them to be involved with Timur and work with Timur to see what he can create. And that's what you want to do in this business. You want to create good content at the cheapest possible price and get the highest possible profit. So I'm not against this business model at all. And it kind of, as we're talking about it, gives me a little bit of ideas as well in my mind. Could we do an Outlaw Nation Studios film in this manner, using the technology with the fans and followers who are watching our show now? Maybe some of them have that ability to create a film, and we can just make a film and be our first official original content from the Outlaw Nation studios. That would be fun as hell. So the fact that this kind of stuff feels accessible, and really, you got to go back to Steven Soderbergh shooting that entire film that he shot on his iPhone. You've got to go back to that. These possibilities have been in the works for quite some time. And some filmmakers like to explore the highest level of technology in terms of audio and visual. Yeah, right. And other people like to explore it with the technology available, the highest level of quality they can create. So it's fun to see it expanding in that way.
Well, when movies are done so cheaply, not only that, when movies are done so cheaply that with this much flexibility, that usually allows a lot of creativity behind the scenes, between the directors, producers, etc. Timur, he's not only been involved with like Searching, Find It Done Dark, but he's also the director of 2008's Wanted. So clearly the guy is, he's good with the camera.
Yeah.
But that's neither here or there because, obviously it's going to be used in this format, but he is, very talented when it comes to creating these like really interesting stories. So I am excited to see what kind of content that's going to emerge from this contract for sure.
We will.
Now,
all right. Yeah.
Oh, I was gonna say, there's another like graphic novel story we got coming.
Oh yeah,
up.
we'll get to that in a little bit. But first, let's jump into this story from that we're getting. This unfortunate story about Hartley Sawyer there from Flash. We'd be remiss not to mention it. He has been fired from the Flash after a host of his tweets that contained misogynistic and racist reference surfaced in the past week. Someone that he knew outed him with these tweets from a few years ago. And they make references to sexual assault, and they contain racist and homophobic language. And of course, really, it's not the right tone to hit for the last few years, but really not the right tone to hit with what's going on in the world right now. The CW released a statement, said Hartley Sawyer will not be returning for season 7 of The Flash. We do not tolerate derogatory remarks that target any race, ethnicity, national origin, gender, or sexual orientation. Such remarks are antithetical to our values and policies. Showrunner Eric Wallace also said this morning, many of you learned that Hartley Sawyer will not be returning for season 7 of The Flash. Concerning his social media tweets, they broke my heart and made me mad as hell, and they're indicative of the larger problem in this country. Grant Gustin, who of course is Barry Allen in The Flash, said he was, quote, shocked, sad, and angry when I saw the tweet, words matter. And for those of you who saw the tweets, you understand what we're talking about. For those of you who didn't, I don't think it's, I don't think we need to repeat the tweets or get into the tweets here necessarily, Alex, but let's just suffice to say they're pretty shocking tweets. And Hartley issued a statement saying that he was sorry. My words irrelevant of being meant with an intent of humor. That's him trying to save his ass. That's a PR person putting that in the first sentence saying, hey, I was only joking. Were hurtful and unacceptable. I am ashamed. I was capable of these really horrible attempts to get attention at that time. I regret them deeply. This was not acceptable behavior. These were words I threw out at the time with no thought or recognition of the harm my words could do and now have done today, which I think is utter bullshit. But Sawyer joined The Flash in 2017 as Ralph Dibny, a.k.a. Elongated Man, and he's been on the show as a series regular since 2018. Alex, this isn't the first time this has happened on a show. Certainly Roseanne being one of the most high-profile people to be kicked off her own show, which had her name on it. Pretty shocking stuff. But I don't get what goes on in people's minds. I don't know how they think the physical attack of a woman is humor. I don't know how they think racist shots taken at other races is humor. I'm just really shocked at this kind of situation. And what makes a mind think this kind of stuff is actually funny?
I honestly don't care about him. When I say I just don't even really want to acknowledge him, honestly, it's just like I don't want to think about him. I don't want to say it wasn't directed at me. I'm not involved, but I mean, I read a handful of these tweets because sometimes things are taken out of context. Sometimes, things like that. And I was like, okay, I went into them thinking, okay, maybe some of them are, maybe they don't look as good now more than ever, especially with the climate. But, sometimes things could be exaggerated, things like that. If I just read a story being like, someone's fired over social media tweets, I'm like, that's like a very vague description. Right. But I read a handful of the tweets and I was like, wow, this guy's he's an idiot.
Yeah, I mean,
so
they're not funny. They're not funny.
Like, it's clear that it's. Again, I just don't think we should even really acknowledge it. There's no point in really kind of. I just really want to hit the nail on the coffin as far as him. I think he's done for. I really just want to make him irrelevant completely.
Yeah, and I think, the thing is, in this day and age, if you're not doing the legwork to go back through your tweets, and look, people tweet crazy stuff. I get it. And like you said, he was tweeting for attention. If you're not going back, or you're not hiring somebody to go back through your tweets and erase them, because this was someone who the person who deleted or revealed the tweets, I think, was either a former girlfriend or someone he knew before, and it was a person of color, and felt that he needed to be outed for the things he said and was leaving up on his social media. If you're not doing the legwork or hiring someone to do the legwork to delete controversial tweets or tweets you may have said when you were younger and you weren't smart, then your dumbass deserves what happens to you. Honestly, your dumbass deserves to get fired. Your dumbass deserves to get suspended. This is the kind of, when you're at a high level like the CW and on a show that is, one of their premier shows on that channel and part of the premier genre going on right now, or premier movie type of movie in the superhero genre, then, you're a fool. And I agree with you, Alex. Put the nail on the coffin on this guy, because sometimes privilege can show itself in the ugliest of ways. He's a good-looking, skinny white kid. I'm sure he didn't lack for attention, so he's feeling himself and shot his mouth off in these terrible tweets that advocated, physical assault on women, maiming of women, a shot at black people, a shot at Reverend Al Sharpton. These terrible, just stupid tweets that were punching down from his position, and he's an idiot. And so getting him fired is absolutely great. And don't be surprised if J.K. Rowling at some point will suffer the same fate for transphobia tweets that came out as well. So, I mean, just stop tweeting, people. Just shut the hell up, tweet nice things, and move on with your life.
Well, that's the thing. What I'm really surprised about is that he is a somewhat recent addition to the scene. When I say recent, I mean he was added in the past few years.
Yeah.
He hasn't been around for the last decade on CW. Right. So he grew up with social media. He knows better. He's been using Twitter and Facebook and everything as long as he's been an actor. So he should know better. Yeah. And he just openly and he doesn't care. Right. Or at least he didn't at the time. And he didn't think this would ever any of it would come to light. But also at the same time that look what happened with James Gunn, for example. I know a lot of people talk about it. It's like, oh, he was James Gunn. The thing is with James Gunn in particular, I feel like that's a very different conversation. That whole situation should have been a learning experience for everyone.
Right.
Now, people make mistakes. I acknowledge that.
Yeah.
There is a difference between someone making a few tweets here and there from a decade ago.
Yeah.
Versus someone doing really horrible asinine tweets consistently over a year.
Yeah.
That's a very different conversation. Whereas one seems like they were stupidly trying to be funny and it just didn't succeed, and that was just a fleeting moment or whatever it might be. There's a difference between doing that once and someone doing consistently railroading these horrible things and on so many different levels.
Yeah.
So he needs to leave.
Yeah, and you want to make it very clear, at least. And I see some people like you just mentioned mentioning James Gunn. This is not, you can't do whataboutism. Every single situation is singularly different because of the factors involved in it, right? With James Gunn, as you said, it was 10 years ago. Disney knew about the tweets. Disney, he had apologized for the tweets before he even started on Guardians of the Galaxy. He'd gone through therapy for things he'd been upset about. And so everything was well known. It was only a knee-jerk reaction from Disney when these things blew up, thanks to a right-wing website bringing them back up again as a shot back at Hollywood outing other people for these terrible tweets. So he got caught in the crossfire. Disney took a little bit of time, looked at it, brought James Gunn back. This is Hartley Sawyer. This is only a couple of years ago when he's saying these things. He's on the Young and Restless at the time. So seriously, this is a guy who is building a platform. You got to be smart about it. There you go.
It kind of reminds me of if Shia LaBeouf, if there's a video that came out about Shia LaBeouf, have him in a video or a handful of old tweets about him in being completely trashed and drunk.
Yeah.
Or whatever. And thing is, the difference between, and it came out and it was like a video from like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's in a very different place. He's made a movie about how he's trying to recover from a lot of his childhood situation. Yeah. He's been in rehab several times, and he's apologized for his history very publicly. And something he's obviously actively working on. So the difference between Shia LaBeouf, I mean, like hypothetically, if that happened to Shia LaBeouf, you know, that's like I feel like if that came out and, you know, it would be like, yeah, we already acknowledged that. We knew that about you. And that's something you have since apologized for and you're working through. There's a difference between that and this guy.
Yeah.
It feels like it happened on social media, at least. Tweet sent last year is yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And Carnage 14 says, only matters because it's on a popular TV show. If he wasn't on The Flash, we wouldn't be talking about him. Yeah, duh. What's this groundbreaking comment you just made, Carnage 14? Of course. That's the only reason we're talking. Yeah, that is not news. Duh. Yeah. I don't know what that means. The only reason we're talking about anybody is because they're on a popular TV show or a popular film. And speaking of which,
we're talking about movies and TV on this show. It's crazy, right, Rocha? Let's talk about some cool stuff, though.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Cool people.
All right, let's talk about Jake Gyllenhaal, and we'll see what happens with CW. I'm sure they'll recast the elongated man because guess what? He can morph his face into whatever look he wants. So let's move on to Jake Gyllenhaal. Multiple bids are in now for this graphic novel called Snowblind, which is an adaptation of this graphic novel by Ollie Masters, who also did The Kitchen. That graphic novel really well written and done, but the movie maybe not so much. But Jake Gyllenhaal is attached to star with Gustav Moller to direct the film. It's his English directorial debut. He directed the 2018 Danish thriller The Guilty. The script was written by Patrick Ness, who wrote A Monster Calls, which a lot of people enjoyed, and is adapting Lord of the Flies for Luca Guadagnino at the WB. It's being pitched as a Prisoners meets Running on Empty, and it will be produced by Boom Studios, Ross Ritchie, Stephen Christie, and Adam Yolen. Gyllenhaal will also produce it with his company 9 Stories and Riva Marker. They're smartly overcoming the social distancing limitations of the traditional pitch. Potential buyers have received a link to a recorded video of the pitch with an introduction from both the director and Gyllenhaal. And let me give you a little bit of a quick description about the plot line in this movie. It's centered on Sheriff Billy Bowden, who, after a local story on him goes viral, struggles to keep his past life of crime and his placement in witness protection hidden from his friends and family in a small Alaska town. His high school son, Teddy, is the one who reveals this by innocently posting a photo of his dad online, only to learn that he and his family are in the witness protection program. A man comes to the town seeking revenge and invades their town. FBI arrives afterwards, and Teddy has to find out why his parents are in the witness protection program. So this sounds exciting to me, Alex. A lot of interesting threads. I may see if this one's on Comixology and read it later on today. But it sounds exciting. I like the storylines played out here. And Jake, you could see Jake being the guy that comes into town, or you can see Jake being that sheriff in the small town, having to kind of come to terms with his criminal past and explain to his child or his young son why he is in the witness protection program, or their whole family is.
Jake Gyllenhaal is one of those actors is that I will pay a stupid amount of money to see him on a theater. Stupid amount of movie. Can we just get that picture of him back again?
Sure.
For a split second.
All right.
Well, for a split second.
All right. I mean, I've tried to pick the sexiest one.
So beautiful. You are so beautiful to me. Can't you see? Right. He's just stunning. Anyway, okay, look at the blue eyes. Okay. I didn't know this was going to be a musical episode, did you? I am super excited about this. The Kitchen, you're right, it did very badly, but this is going into this movie. It's actually it's a very different experience. I'm sure it will be, because Jake Gyllenhaal is not only going to be directing it, he'll be producing it with his Nine Lives production company. But the chosen director is Gustav Moller, who directed 2018's The Guilty, the Danish film. Now, this movie has a 95% I'm on the big screen. Has 95% on Rotten Tomatoes and has 88% for the audience score. So to say this movie is received well is to put it mildly, essentially, or it's very understated. Sorry, my balloons are still here. But yeah, so it's like very much a movie that
sorry about that, yo.
Start dancing or something.
No, go ahead.
But it makes me super duper excited. The script is written, like you said, by Patrick Ness, who I'm really excited about. He's involved with a lot of people that I really love and I respect when it comes to working in the film industry. Luca Guadagnino, he directed one of my favorite movies of the past several years with Call Me by Your Name. So when it comes to picking a lot of the people behind the scenes, I am ecstatic for this combination of content creators. So
in my mind already, you talk about Alaska, I'm seeing a snowy town. I'm a big fan of movies with snow in it. I'm just
Wind
a crazy
River.
fan.
Need we say more? Hell.
Yeah, I know what I'm saying. And then you get you probably get Jake with the beard, because he's in that Alaska town. He's gonna be doing his thing. He's gonna be like kind of really emotive and vulnerable, and dealing with action stuff as well. There'll probably be a shirtless scene. I'm sure there'll be a shirtless scene with Jake. So we'll see. I hope this comes off. I hope this happens. And, nothing can go into production just yet, even though LA is opening the doors to it. We'll see how how quickly productions go into motion. But certainly we'll see what happens here. But I'm agree with you. I'm excited for it. And I like Jake very much as well. He is easy on the eyes. I don't mind saying that. He's a good-looking dude. Can't deny that, but he's also an incredible talent and fantastic actor and a damn good singer, since you just sang some songs. His Sunday in the Park with George soundtrack, I bought that. I never even saw the production. I had to buy it to hear his version of those classic songs from Sondheim.
He's so funny. Every time I see him on SNL, I bust out laughing. He's just surprisingly funny. But okay, so just hear, like we said about like the tone of the movie. Regarding sleepy suburb in Alaska. This is going to be like a really this movie was pitched. It's still being pitched to a lot of financiers and everything. But it was pitched as Prisoners meets from Denis Villeneuve. Prisoners meets Running on Empty. Yeah. So, I'm with Sidney Poitier. I think it's Sidney Poitier.
Sidney Poitier. River Phoenix and Judd Hirsch. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's going to be elements of family drama, some psychological detective thriller aspects. So I definitely think we're definitely going to be. I'm emotionally going to be preparing to watch something really intense, very psychological thriller aspects. And I can't wait to see how this is really going to come out. Not to mention, I'm so excited about this director in particular. The Guilty is, I know a lot of people are not really super, they're kind of iffy on, a lot of foreign directors coming in, but, that's ridiculous to say because, Gustav, it's pretty darn fantastic. So get yourself together. So I'm really ecstatic to see really this come out. Not to mention any comic book movie, low-key comic book movie, I'm so for.
And we'll see what happens. Certainly there'll be updates on this as it goes along. But we should wrap up here. 9:44. We're about to send you on off to SCN Live at 10 a.m. There at the top of the hour. Andrew G sent in one last Streamlabs, said, what do you think of Gone with the Wind being removed from HBO Max? Is this a form of censorship? Do you think it's okay? I don't agree with it. You can't ignore or pretend like shit doesn't exist from the past because it doesn't line up with society today. Andrew G, we addressed that earlier in the show. Certainly, if you want to screen on back to the early parts of the show, it is one of the first Super Chats that comes through, and Alex and I address it. So look for our answer back then. And hear us discuss it fully. So Alex, where can they find you? Right there, right underneath you.
You can find me tonight on Schmobates, Call to Action, and it's going to be starting at 9:30. You can find me on Twitter right there. So definitely give me a follow. I'd really appreciate it. That'd be really cool. I post funny GIFs and everything every once in a while. But also on Tuesdays with Video Drew, I co-host a show called Cinema Bias, where we really dive into, our personal biases surrounding different movies, genres, directors, and all that good stuff. And so we just finished an episode on Vampire's Kiss with Nick Cage from 1988 yesterday. So that was super fun. And next week, we're going to dive into... 1995's Alfonso Cuarón. That's it. Alfonso Cuarón's Little Princess.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Oh, Little Princess. Nice. I like it. Haskell 420 sent in a super chat. One last thing. Oh, two of them actually. Rats and Kings said, Alex having seen Brazil is the best surprise today. That's funny there. And Haskell 420 said, John, got an idea. Since you want to talk about said topics, rename the rundown list, the wanted posted. On today's wanted poster, Bill and Ted 3, etc. Nice suggestion. I kind of like how the show's going, though, brother. I like the way I don't, because that sounds to sound like movie talk and what they did with movie talk and listing everything out ahead of time. I don't want to do that. My show is my show. I like it doing its own thing and standing on its own 2 feet. But maybe something like that is not a bad idea. Maybe a running thing underneath, maybe a banner underneath wouldn't be a bad idea of subject we're talking about, and then changing it into the next up, blah, blah, blah. So maybe that's not a bad idea, but I don't think the wanted poster works for me as well. But I appreciate the suggestion, Haskell. Yeah.
I did want to give you a heads up. I was watching yesterday, you on the rundown yesterday, and your conversation actually inspired one of my Schmobate questions.
Oh.
Yeah.
You mean on the backstage? We're not backstage? Not the rundown. That's another show. Yeah.
Sorry. Completely. That's a whole different situation. There's just so many Schmodown shows out there. I try to watch it. Anyway. Okay. So the first question is, best, what Schmodown personality has the best nickname? So you can go into the Outlaw, the Crusher, you can go into the Saint, you can go into a bunch of different directions. So who has the best nickname?
The second question.
That's a fun. It's just meant to be a fun question. There's always the first question always meant to represent the past of Schmodown history.
Right.
The second question always references the future of Schmodown history, which is going into next season. How many competitors should a manager be able to keep in their faction?
3, 7.
Neither one of my competitors chose that.
5, 6. No, none of those things. None of those worked.
I love either one of them. I also think that there should be definitely less than 5 personally, just because I know you favored in for 7, and that makes complete sense, especially if we're going to go in the direction of sports, which I'm never going to argue when it comes to like how many, but also in terms of like storyline and character development and everything. I love the idea of competitors being shuffled around and loyalty shifting and for story purposes. And so I don't feel like we would be able to get that as much if a lot of people are sticking to the same manager every single time. But that's just me. I totally respect it. Otherwise, but either way, that's just me. But the third question is, what should be the first city should get to get their own movie category slice on the wheel?
New York. That just seems, that makes all kinds of logical sense.
So our competitors went with New York City and LA. So
LA already. Okay, yeah, I could see that. In LA slice, that makes sense.
Movies set in LA. Honestly, I would have chosen Paris, but that's just me.
Oh,
that's just me.
You think okay? All right. You think there's a lot of films set in Paris, but all right, I respect that.
No, sorry, that's an LA one. Gigi for
Gigi,
Moulin Rouge.
Yeah,
there's a lot of movies that are set in Paris.
American in Paris, yeah.
American in Paris. There's a bunch of movies that are set in Paris.
That's true. That's true.
Mention. Yeah.
There you go. Fair point. So watch that tonight, Schmobates, over there at the Action Army YouTube channel. Please follow me at The Rocha Says on Twitter and on Instagram. Subscribe down below to the Outlaw Nation channel as well. We lost some subscribers being a little more outspoken on what's going on in the world. So I'd love for you guys who have been hesitating to subscribe to please subscribe and make up those numbers. I'd appreciate it. Thank you very, very much. Remember to hit like on this channel as well. And if you're watching it after we've done it live, leave a comment below. As many comments as you want. Anybody watching it, please leave comments. The more comments you leave, the higher it goes up in the algorithm of YouTube, and they give it some love. One last thing to announce really quickly before we wrap up. Speaking of Schmodown, we are dropping the Ultimate Schmodown Show this week on the Outlaw Nation Facebook group. It is a new Schmodown reaction show, Schmodown conversation show. I'm excited for it to be dropping. Mike Shea and me, and then our associate producer, Sean Barreto, all involved in bringing this thing to life. So can't wait for y'all to watch that really, really soon and give Alex one more Schmodown show for her to watch. We shall see. But all right, that's it for me. I love all of you. Take care of yourselves. Have a great Wednesday. It's the hump day. Do something good for yourself today as we march on to the end of the week. And don't forget SCN Live in 10 minutes there over on the Schmodown Entertainment Network. Take care until then, and come back and see us on Friday for another brand new live episode of Mornings with the Outlaw.